Hi. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
Sure.
What's with 1914? Like, I hear so much talk about it. Like, what's the explanation about that?
It can be pretty involved, but basically, because God's always been a timekeeper, there's a bunch of prophecies that point toward that year as the end of what's called the Gentile times, at the beginning of the times, the last days that Jesus talked about. So basically 1914 is when Satan was ousted from heaven, and that's why the world has been kind of crazy since then.
What have you heard about it?
What have you heard about it?
Oh, well, like that your organization made a prediction about it. Because like some witnesses I was talking to, they use that for like a proof that it's like true, the true organization.
That's one of the many things.
Well, I was interested in this in particular.
Yeah.
So would you agree with that they predicted 1914?
Actually, 1914 was the year that was outlined as something dramatic changing. They didn't have all the facts, but they knew that it would be a dramatic change. We didn't have all the facts, but we knew it would be a dramatic change.
So that's when you read their writings from before 1914, that's what they were predicting, a dramatic change?
Dramatic change.
Nothing more than that?
They thought that God's kingdom would then start and that they would go to heaven, but that wasn't the case.
And they were preaching that all over the world, I think.
Well, there was only a few thousand witnesses at that point.
Yeah.
So just a few thousand. So it wasn't all over the world, but there was a big campaign that pointed to it.
Right.
Are you a historian?
Well, just an armchair.
Yeah.
I was, because I'm also very interested in the Millerite movement, which it spun off of. Those were Russell's teachers were Millerites, Millerite Adventists. What bothers me isn't maybe that they didn't have it right or whatever, but there's quotes in the literature that kind of use it as a proof, and the thing is that at that time.
A proof of what?
Well, let's say, for example, on the broadcast, that one where David Splane was talking, and he had a chart, and of course he was revising the meaning of generation for it was the 6th different one they've had, but he said that the anointed of 1914 were the only ones on the planet who saw the sign Jesus spoke of and understood it correctly.
And what sign would you think he was talking about?
Matthew 24, the Olivet Discourse.
It's the end of the Gentile times, the beginning of the last days.
So he said that he was using that as like a proof,
Right.
He said they were the only ones in the world who understood it and interpreted it correctly. Now, the fact is that they believed that Jesus had already come invisibly in 1874. So I'm not sure in what way they would even be looking for the sign or interpreting it correctly.
Well, the prophecy in Daniel, if you look at that prophecy, points to 1914 as part of that 2,520-year period. So they didn't have all the facts, but they knew 1914 was a year.
That's not what he said. He said they were the only ones on earth who understood it correctly.
Understood what correctly?
The sign.
Right. That the end of the Gentile times was here, the end of the Gentile times, the beginning of the last days. They are the only ones that understood that.
Well,
we are the only ones.
the literature also says that they were expecting the invisible presence.
That's true. And they did.
They believed and taught until the 1930s that Christ was invisibly present and reigning since 1874.
Yeah, I've been a witness a long time. I don't remember ever reading that.
This has some of the references if you would like to look at them.
No, I really wouldn't.
They're only from the publications.
I'll look it up myself then.
Okay.
I'll look it up myself.
Well, that's interesting. It's nothing else but that. You tell
your-
everybody else to examine your religion, so I think it's only fair. 1 John 4:1 says, "Test all things." I mean, are you guys afraid of reading your own literature?
No, I can look at it. I'll be glad to look at it. But
Well, I don't. The thing is, it might not be in the libraries anymore because they've expunged a lot of them from the older publications, the organization, and
Where are you getting all this from?
it's definitely elders' letters that were sent out saying get rid of older
How did
publications.
you get a hold of elders' letters?
They're published on the internet. Because there's elders that don't believe it's God's only channel, so they just
Were you a witness
leak
at one
things.
time?
Oh, no.
No?
And certainly the website doesn't have anything from before 1950. And the CD-ROM doesn't either. So how are you going to find it?
I have some of those old
Oh,
publications.
do you?
Yeah.
That would be cool. So if you...
Let me back up.
So you're not bothered by that they say they were the only ones who understood it
what I'm-
perfectly, yet they were teaching something completely differently, and they were not looking for the sign because they believed Jesus
Actually,
was
they-
already present.
Actually, they were looking for the sign, and they thought Jesus started reigning in 1914, and that's in fact.
Not until the 1930s. It's even in Rutherford's book called Prophecy that Jesus was present ever since 1874.
Let me back up.
I don't know.
Let me back up.
It's
Can I
not
ask
the
you a que-
changes,
can I
it's
ask
the
you a
lying
question?
about it.
Can I ask you a question?
It's the lying
Let's
about
back
it.
up a little bit. So, in this modern time, who's doing what Jesus did? Wait, answer the question now. Think about it, because you're telling me that we're a little delusional that we've lied about this. In this modern time, who's doing what Jesus did?
Well, the Watchtower is doing what he said, that false prophets have gone out into the world to beware of them. So I'd say they would fulfill that.
So Matthew 24:14, what did Jesus say was going to happen?
The gospel would be preached in all
Who's
the
doing
world.
that?
And then the
Wait,
end
wait,
will
wait,
come
wait.
in
And then-
Matthew 24,
and
which he
then-
is talking about the end of the system of things, which was the Mosaic system,
No.
and the destruction of the temple. Your literature doesn't usually include verses 1 and 2. Paul said in Romans that the gospel was preached in all the world.
So there's
World
no need.
means
There's no need for the gospel to be preached
no,
now.
that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it was fulfilled because he said, and then the end will come. He also said, you'll not be finished going through all the cities before the end. You know, he said, some standing here will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God arrive in power. Not in 1914. Then he said it would arrive before some standing here will taste death. So, you know, Mormons preach just as much as you, many traditional Christian organizations. There's 100 million traditional Christians in China.
When you think-
it means really nothing.
Okay. Well, it's nice talking to you.
So if you look in those old, I hope you really are willing, look before 1914 and see what they wrote about it. And
I have actually, but I'll look again because I have some of
because
those.
they're lying by omission, and they were not. You can't say something was true that is the polar opposite of what they're teaching now. So I hope you check it out. A great website is called towerwatch.com, and that has some testimonies on it. And hey, thanks for being so nice to
All
me.
right. Have a good day.
Bye. God bless.